Today we're having the first of several talks with Mayor Perrin, and it's about your city. And Mayor Perrin, you just delivered the State of the City for 2020. I think it's your 12th State of the City address.
That's correct.
And I think we had a whole lot to talk about. You made some great points in the presentation to the City Council and a few clubs. And I don't know where to start, but it seems like safety has been an issue that we've addressed pretty seriously in the past year. Can you talk about a little bit of the things that we've done, what the problem is and how we've addressed it?
Sure, be glad to. Well, you know, Bill, we talked about in the State of the City, one of the things that's always on the front burner of our city and on my mind every day is public safety. Now, one of the things we did do the latter part of the year, about probably June or July, is we started purchasing these Sky Cops. And the Sky Cops, we now have, I think, 16 around the city. And those Sky Cops do an incredible job for the city because it's not only recording those areas live all the time, but our dispatch people can also be monitoring that at the same time. So we have had some people that were arrested because of that, actually caught in the stage of doing a crime, if you will. And so we also formed a committee on the council that basically says, hey, we're going to go out and ask people to help us buy more Sky Cops. And so, give you a quick example, Memphis, my understanding, has well over 800 of these Sky Cops. Well, you know, Jonesboro is the second largest city in Arkansas with 80-something square miles, so we've got a lot of territory to cover. And these Sky Cops, let me make it clear, they don't take the place of a police officer, but it certainly gives him a tool in his toolkit where they can see those things, and then if we have to go back for 30 days, which is the video, and look for anything in there, it really helps our police department dramatically. So that's why we formed that committee to start talking about what is the Sky Cop, how does it work, what does it cost, would you like to have one for your neighborhood or your POA, Property Owner Association. So that's been a big, big positive thing in the last 6 months.
And the genesis of this is we are not an unsafe city. In fact, statistically, we're still one of the safest cities in Arkansas and therefore the nation. Right. But we started to see a little bit of gunplay, shooting activity, a little bit of the things that have plagued the other parts of the country. And again, if you don't have drugs in one pocket and guns or money in the other, you're very safe in this town. But you wanted, and Chief Elliott wanted, to crack down on this before it got out of hand.
That's right. That was a proactive move, no question about it. And like I said, it's worked. And I think the more we get across town, you're going to see even more things happen. We did put those in what we call our, quote, hot spots, what you just mentioned, where our records show that there has been drug activity, things of that nature. So that was the very first place we put those, obviously. And so now we're looking at other areas to put those, and with the money coming in, I would hope within the next year or so that we could at least double or triple the number of Sky Cops that we've got out there now.
We've seen crime move, I think, from the biggest cities to some of the not quite as large cities, but sprawling cities such as Jonesboro. And,
right.
And so didn't we pick up some federal assistance?
Yes, we did. And the fact that we now have a Homeland Security, excuse me, Homeland Security agent assigned to us here, and she's doing an incredible job in helping our department. And with her comes funding and also equipment that we probably couldn't purchase on our own. So she also can talk directly with other federal agencies that will help us in solving a issue, if you will. So we're real proud to have her here, and she's done a great job since she's been here. And she's been out to the hospitals, she's been out to a lot of places to let them know what to look for in certain things, and also to teach them some of the things that they may not have had a chance to be exposed to. And
right.
That's what I like.
She's Homeland Security Agent Mary Ann Daphne, and she even sits
right.
down sometimes with some of our homeless community just to find out how they're feeling and what you can
Exactly.
do to help them. And speaking of that, homelessness is a new, not a new problem, but it's a new reinvigorated initiative that you have started this year.
Right, that's right. It's we just a few weeks ago established by council another homeless committee. Now, the first one that we had done, we call it Task Force Committee. And the purpose of that was to say, okay, what is the first thing we should do in order to help the homelessness? So as we traveled around other cities, we discovered that the first thing we have to do is to screen those people to see really what their needs are and what type of homelessness are they. And so that created the hub. So the city got the hub going, and then the hub itself moved over to a nonprofit organization, has its own board of directors. And let me say this, it's done an incredible job. We have actually screened, they have over 1,000 homeless people. But more importantly than that, they've put over 386 people to work. I mean, gainfully employed.
Yes.
And that's incredible.
That's great
And
stuff.
so now what I suggested that we do is that, and this is a big topic for the National League of Cities. In fact, they're talking about it right now today in Washington, D.C., is that we now want to look for a location and what type of facility or building should we construct, what that cost would be, who would operate it, and what would be the cost of operation, and what type of services. And I would anticipate that the hub would be located inside this facility. So, and then once that is done, what I'd like to do is go back and pick up the task force members, pick up this committee, put them together, and then we can sit down and look at all the information we've got here. And all together, I think we can help fund this facility for the homelessness, because every one of those committee members, it's in their heart. They totally love it, and I do too. That we got to do something about our homelessness.
And I think we've seen a public outcry, a public demand for it. So I think a lot of people with big
Right.
hearts really want to take care of the homeless, and that's a good
Right.
Asset for Jonesboro.
Right.
You know, another thing that we're seeing a lot more of is traffic in Jonesboro. I think we may be a city approaching 80,000 population, but I
Right.
think we're almost double that in traffic on a daily basis, because we're the hub of Northeast Arkansas. We have hotels filled with salespeople and business people, and people just come
Yeah.
to Jonesboro to work. So it's a two-pronged problem, growing pain-wise. One is we're having to work on roads. Another is we're having to pick up trash, because believe it or not, in 2020, people still throw their trash out the window. So let's talk about first that issue,
Okay.
what we've done. We're talking about beautifying Jonesboro and making sure the trash is picked up.
Okay. Well, Bill, you and I both know we've been together and driving down the road, and we look over on a certain street, and we see on some of our main arterials, and we see trash, cups, etc., just in the ditch, and it just doesn't look good. You know, perception's reality, and so what we've got to do is to train those people and tell them through our code enforcement, hey, you need to pick these things up, you know, run a business. The other thing we've got to do is just teach people don't litter. I mean, some of these trucks that they have now, I've been behind them when they have a window inside the window, and when they get through something, they throw it out that window, it hits the bed, and just goes right on out in the street. So I mean, you know, how do you stop that? Well, you've got to educate them, and then also we've got signs up. There is an ordinance that we can fine people for littering. And so we're going to get pretty tough on that littering through our police department. The other thing is that a lot of the things that in town is moved by trailers.
Right.
They don't put a tarp or a cover over it, and the law is very clear, state law, that if you have that, you should have it covered. And so we're going to have to work and educate those people for those tarps. So you got a three-pronged approach. The other one is that I'm really excited about is the Keep Jonesboro Beautiful Commission that was just established.
Yeah.
And I'm amazed that when we put that out there on a press release, when you did that to get on the website, and if you want to be a member, to put your name and address and stuff on there, it was incredible how many people got involved in this, because it's their city.
That's
and
right.
they want to make sure it's beautiful. So we'll have our first meeting in the next few days on that commission. But I think it's going to be starting with the young kids on educating them about not littering all the way up. That will be one phase of that, I think, commission. The other one would be what we just talked about, is to get our code enforcement and all of our police department to make sure that they're monitoring that. But also is that we even have some folks in here that are horticultural people that got in here saying, hey, we would like to put more planting, more flowers, more things in our entrance to the city of Jonesboro. And I'm saying, hey, that's great. So you can see it starts from A and almost goes to Z on what we're trying to accomplish. So I just encourage any of the citizens watching today, if they'd like to get involved in this or help in any way, hey, man, we'd love to have them.
We'd love to have you. And
Yeah.
you know, the other thing a lot of people don't really stop to think about when they drive into Jonesboro is that the effort you go to make sure we have interstate loop, the cloverleafs mowed, and the state does not pay for that because they only come by once or twice a year. And in a lot of cities, you will see really high grass and weeds when you come in through to them on the interstate.
That's a good comment, Bill, because here's the thing about it. When I looked at that and I thought, well, you know, I'd say, well, why is the bypass, I-555, why has it not been mowed? It's so high. And I discovered that, well, who's got the contract? Well, I chased it down, and it was private vendors that can apply, and so can municipalities. They can apply for that contract. So I called the highway department, and I said, hey, can we put in a bid for that or whatever? And he said, sure, no problem. Well, we did, and we got the contract. And the reason is, with the private people, they start on I-55 and come through, so you can imagine if we were able to get 3 mowings a year, we'd be lucky. All right? So we said that can't happen. So we decided to start mowing it every day to make sure that bypass is beautiful on both sides. And it's about a 12-mile stretch, so it takes a lot of time and effort to do that. So the highway department gives us a little funding for that project, but most of that comes from us, ourselves. And I've always told people there's 2 ways to get into town. You're either going to fly in, or you're going to drive in. So if you fly in and if you drive in, we want to make sure you can say a wow factor about Jonesboro. And so, you know, if you leave here and go to other cities and go through there, you can see the big difference.
You can, and you will notice, and even in other states, in the South at least, you will drive into a city and see grass as high as the welcome sign, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
In Jonesboro,
right.
you take for granted that it's going to look nice, and I think that's a really nice touch.
We've had a lot of comments on that, and then also, let me just say this, our Marty Boyd, our sheriff, works with us very closely, and some of the folks out there on Saturday do the pickup cleanup on that. And so I just want to say thanks to the county. And that's another one of those deals of public-private partnerships where we work with the county all the time. So I just want to say thanks to them for doing that.
That's good. The other part of that whole comment about all the traffic we have in town is road work. And you prioritized a few years ago widening some road, make Red Wolf faster, the horrific experiences that some people were having at railroad crossings. And so we're about to see a whole lot of work take place around here, aren't we?
You know, in 2020, you're going to see a lot of orange barrels. And in fact, in my state of the city, I said it's going to be about $80 million worth of work that will be done, or at least will be bid by the highway department to get it on schedule probably for 2021, early 2021. You're absolutely right. The overpass on Highland Drive on 18, that's the big one. The good news, though, is that we anticipate having Watt Street done overpass before the end of this year. And what that means is emergency vehicles can get out to the industrial park and to the Nelson School District and things of that nature. The overpass at the airport road will be bid probably October of this year. And but more importantly, we've got a lot of intersections. Highland and Caraway is going to be redone this year. Hopefully they'll have it done before Christmas season and shopping. and that will look just like the one in front of Centennial Bank. You'll have a double left, 2 straight, and 1 right. You'll also have on what we call Southwest Drive, Highland and Main. I call them the candlesticks, and they laugh at me, but whatever the little stickers are there. But that'll all come out, and you'll have 2 lanes coming into downtown, and a dedicated right turn lane. But more importantly, too, if you're at the school, at Jonesboro High School, at a ball game or whatever, want to leave there, and those buses leave every day in the bus route, is that'll be a double left and 2 straight and 1 right. So that's going to be a huge difference in getting that flow of traffic out of there. So you're right, we have a lot of them now. One of the big things that you just sent out a release on, and I visited with some people this morning, that they got the contract to go ahead and start putting the asphalt down on I-555 beside what's out there now.
Right.
Well, that's phase 1 of getting it ready, because we're going to have a congestion. Now, to get ready for that, from actually Southwest Drive all the way to Love's Truck Stop. And so just bear with us, and just, our patient, just be patient, because that's about a $32 million project that will absolutely make our I-55 real smooth, and also the overpasses. So I just want to tell everybody to be calm. It's going to take some time.
It's hard to be patient behind the wheel, Mayor.
I understand that, and I'm probably one of the worst, I guess. But I
didn't say that.
Yeah, well, most of the people really and truly, they're going to learn, especially us that live here. Okay,
Yes.
You're going to learn how to make a detour if you know
Right.
that's going to be there for that period of time.
That's right.
Projected time on that project, I think, somewhere around 18 months.
It is.
And by the time they come in and start till they actually finish. And but if you've driven to Little Rock lately, you've got 4 or 5 sections.
Mhm.
Same thing going on there, on
And
67.
it's important. If you've driven in the right lane, you know how important that road improvement is.
Absolutely. So it's progress. Our city has seen so much progress, Bill, in the last 10, 12 years. It's just amazing, and we're growing. And statistics show that 3 people a day move to Jonesboro. Now, can I sit there and tell you who they are? No. I'm just saying to you that when I became mayor, in 2009, we were about a population of 65,000. Today, we're at 78, probably 80, depending on the census. So you can see the growth on that. And so with growth comes opportunities, and that opportunity is going to be in traffic, probably a little congestion until we get it done.
Right.
But if we had not taken those stoplights on Redwood, you were stopping at every one of them. And now if you hit one, you can just about go through all of them. We also did the right turn lanes, which was very safe, what I call decelerated lane to get over
Yes.
and to turn into a place. And that's really saved a lot of accidents on Redwood.
Now, we've seen some progress in some quality of life things that we've accomplished, and progress as in Veterans Village, progress in our with the creation of our first dog park.
Mm-hmm.
I think Rotary Centennial Plaza is it's just little nice touches that help make a difference in your town, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I think people definitely want quality of life, and I've always said quality of life and public safety go hand in hand. You can have a great park, but if you don't have public safety, they're not going to come to it.
Right.
But our dog park, we call it the Midtown Dog Park, is just, it's unbelievable how it's used. You mentioned Rotary Club with the Centennial Plaza. Beautiful. And then we went right across the street, actually, on the same property, on the Forum, and did over $250,000 worth of renovation, so we can have other events there besides just performing arts. This last Friday night, Corey Jackson and Mary Beth on The Voice was there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing. I looked around, and almost the whole bottom was full. And so these are things we want to do, is to bring people into town, and also our citizens who live here, give them a variety of things to do. That's the big
Right.
key.
That's right.
Some may swim, some may do bike trails, etc. So we're trying to work with every group to give them what we can, and working very hard to try to get every grant, every federal grant, every state grant we can to do that. And we've formed these committees, and they've been a big help to me of saying, this is what I want.
Right.
And so we have to listen, as a city government, we have to listen to what people want. And once we do that, and we come back and then we look at the checkbook, I call it, and see what we can do with that, then we've been successful, I think. Have we done everything I'd like to do? Absolutely not, as I said in the State of the City. But we have people here as the most loving, benevolent community. If there is a need, they'll give.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that we've done an incredible job with in this city.
I agree. And I think some of the things that we continue to see is growth with the projects that we've undertaken, the bicycle pedestrian trail.
Right.
You know, some of these things aren't happening as fast as we'd hoped,
That's right.
but we are still making progress. We've got progress on that. We've got progress on the trail at Craighead Park. We've got progress on the shooting range, and I think we're going to be shootable, if not finished, by the middle of the summer. Am I right?
That's correct. I would say by July we'll be able to shoot there. We won't be fully in the project, but we'll have 3 skeet and trap stations there. We should have the archery done for direct and target archery there, and the rifle and pistol range will be open too. And of course that's set up primarily for our police department, because they have to go quite often to get recertified in that. But also people can just go out for hunting season and set in their rifles and things like that. So that's a big feature that we're having with the shooting range. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of things that's going on.
And new businesses. I mean, we've seen the construction of a heart center and a surgery center at St. Bernard's that has just hovers over downtown now, and
Right.
it's beautiful, and it's
That's
critical. We've had 2 new factories open, Rice Ever and Delta Peanut. This is part of what brings new people to town, and not all of them will require a sky cop. You know, we've brought some really good people into town with these kind of projects.
Right.
And what do you see as the result of that? You know, what are we seeing? I think we're seeing some growth downtown, some more apartments, some more living space downtown, and just talk about what you're seeing happen downtown.
Well, downtown is flourishing, I think, in the fact that I can go back 10, 12 years ago, and on Main Street you had some empty buildings there. But there were people that got behind that project, private people, investors, to buy those things and renovate them. And now today you can see that we have a lot of restaurants downtown and some retail. We also last year went around on Union and put the street lights on that from actually from Kate all the way up to Huntington. You see on Union you've got Jetton, who's doing 65 mini lofts, apartments up there. Huge project. And so we're going to continue to work on Union and Main and make sure that's there. Lindsay Wingo has done a great job with the Downtown Association of getting all the people together, and we want to bring things in. You know, we've got the Barbecue Fest, had for years, but now we're going to have a Indian culture deal. We're going to have an art exhibit with a band.
Right.
We've got 3 or 4 things, huge things, that's going to happen this year downtown. And that's going to bring people down here to see that. Now, the loft apartments, my understanding, if one moves out, it doesn't take long till they either sell it or lease it to somebody else. And obviously, St. Bernard's, I'm sure, is a big benefactor of that, and the fact that when you add that much, $137 million project, your surgical suite, you've brought in new doctors and more employees for the physicians, and obviously some of these people want to live downtown and just walk to work. And hey, you know, that's great.
You know, you talk about downtown, I think we're seeing a lot of spaces fill up, and you got a lot of variety in restaurants. You got nightlife. You can't go down there on a weekend. I mean, I've always said there are parking spaces. You just have to be willing to walk a little bit, like you do when you go to Walmart. Now we're getting some real competition for parking spaces. You may have to walk a block. You may have to walk a whole block now.
Yeah.
So it's good, right? That's a vibe. That's what you call a downtown vibe.
It is. It's a good thing. You know, it'd be nice if every business had a drive-through. It just don't work that way. So what we're saying is that one of the things we did do that is every downtown parking lot that the city owns last year, is that we've been hearing that the ladies and stuff that come downtown is a little bit concerned about it being too dark. So every parking lot that the city owns, we went and changed out with LED lighting, just like you would see, let's say, at the emergency room at the hospital. So if a lady, my wife gets out of the car in the parking lot, she can see under that car, in the car, and over that car. The safety and the feeling of that, the security, I guess is what I'm saying. So we have done that, and we keep them clean and neat, all the parking lots downtown. And but you're right, some people just doesn't want to walk too far.
You're right.
But,
Well,
you
I
know.
think when there's more to walk to, I think it gives you more incentive.
Bingo, there you go. I agree with you.
Yeah,
I
so
agree.
downtown is becoming cool, and I'm very happy about that.
I agree.
Now, tell me a couple of things that you are hoping to accomplish, in this next year. What type of things are you really focused on right now?
Well, Bill, there's several projects. One is the TRG that we started this year. And a good friend of mine that's president and CEO of that company is that they bought the other scrapyard out in the industrial park. So we would hope the next year and a half or so that all that is cleaned up, everything's moved out there. If that's the case, and I think it will be, is that then we want to try to work with the family maybe for a gift for some of that area. You're looking at about 9 to 12 acres, really. And so we can make that a wonderful park, amphitheater, walking trail as you come over the Main Street Bridge. The other thing is that, and I've been working on it for several months, and that is the Citizens Bank building, actually where I started banking many years ago. And if we could get someone to acquire that and to rehab that building, that building is structurally very strong, engineering-wise. So if we could get someone to do that, and what do you do with that? Well, you could probably put loft apartments in there. You could do a lot of things, maybe. Even maybe a bank within the loft. I don't know. So I am working with some people on that project, and that's one of the big ones that I'm going to work real hard on to try to get something maybe on paper this year, if you will. And so I know a lot of people are saying, well, you've tried several deals. That project is kind of, I'm going to use the word unique on ownership and things like that. But I think everybody, even the owners and stuff, I think they want something to happen.
Right.
It's just a matter of getting to where it's a win-win situation. And so, who knows? We may have to put in a parking deck, first one in downtown Jonesboro. And if that's the case, then as mayor, I've got to go back and find the funding for that parking deck. So I would hope that we could get that started at least sometime this year, if not the latter part of this year.
Tell me about, and you talk about funding and that you have to go back for. You've dealt with a couple of setbacks in tax initiatives brought to the ballot, and the last one lost by about 200 votes. So we have a pretty good tug of war going on over the opinions about that.
Yeah.
But you've still managed to run the city on the budget that we have. What resources have you used, and what does the future hold at this point?
Well, I think it's twofold. One is the fact that, and I can't brag enough about my people, and I call it my city family, and the fact that the frugal spending, they just don't buy something unless they need it, and that's really helped a great deal. But I always want to give them everything they need to do their job. But also, the internet sales tax kicked in July. I can't tell you what percentage, because DF&A, Department of Finance Administration, does not break that down of how much is internet sales online and how much is walking in the store. But that helped us take a 6.2 deficit over to $1 million surplus. And so that was a big deal. Now, I've stressed this in my state of the city. We're doing a good job, and we have some reserves there. We always want to have reserves in there in case of what I call rainy day fund. I went through an ice storm here. Cost the city $1.8 million to clean up the city. Well, when they leave, they want a check. Yeah. Well, it took me 18 months to get the money back from FEMA and Adam to get that back in our checkbook. Now, some of the things with this growth is going to require more fire stations, more police officers, and a lot of things, and it's going to be extremely difficult. If not, you just can't do it with the existing revenue that we've got. Because when you build that next fire station, I'm going to need 16 new firemen in there. And then we'd have to build the building, we'd have to buy the land, and so that's what I was trying to tell people. The day-to-day operation is great, we've got reserves. But if in fact your city continues to grow, and I see no reason why it won't grow, we're going to need additional funding, if you will, in some form to help build these capital expenditures, okay, and get these new other police officers and things like that, and firemen. You're going to have another source of revenue. You can't do it with the existing revenue that you've got now. And I think that's something that I want to kind of stress as I go around to these ward meetings starting in a few weeks, and the fact that, and just lay it out and say, hey, here's the deal. Here's our revenue, here's our expenses. You can see the balance on that, just like your checkbook. But you can own your home, but if you wanted add onto the house or whatever, and your income didn't, you just had the same old income, how you gonna do that? Well, you gotta go to the bank and borrow the money. Well, the problem with that is the city can only borrow money up to, you have to have it paid back in 4 years. But you can't pay the loan back unless you got the revenue.
Right.
So this is something I just want to explain to them, and I think, I've always said, and I started this 12 years ago, totally transparent. Here's the balance sheet. Anytime you want to look at it, here's the P&L, the city, because it's your city, not mine. And I just have the privilege and the honor of serving as mayor. But I can tell you, that office of mine, I'm just renting that office, okay? I don't own that office.
Right.
And so that's something that I've always done, is make sure we got people to tell us about that.
Well, some people don't want to pay any more tax because they're having a hard time, and, and you have to respect that. And then there are some people who say we have everything we need. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm just like any of those others. I don't want to pay any more tax than I have to. The issue here, again, I go back, is that Jonesboro is the second largest city in the state of 80 square miles. It takes more money for me to operate than it does the mayor of North Little Rock or the mayor of Conway. And both of those cities have a much larger base on taxes, as well as even a prepared food tax, things of that nature. In other words, they have additional revenue that can offset their operating cost, and I don't have that. And when I say that, I mean the city of Jonesboro don't have that. Right. So this is something we're going to have to sit down and just take a look at and work it out. And I hear them very clearly. I understand that. And but I've always said, if you'll just sit down and talk to people and try to work something out, and maybe we can all get together and come up with the right thing that we can do for the city. And the return on that is going to be, I think, incredible. But you're going to have to explain it to them.
And we're going to have more of these type of conversations over the year. And anybody wants to have a question or answered, or has a thought that they feel like could be helpful, don't hesitate to email either me, I'm B. Campbell, CAMPBELL @jonesboro.org, or the mayor. He's H. Perrin, HPERRIN @jonesboro.org.
You bet.
And if it's something that the community is worried about, I think the mayor's always happy to address the situation.
I will respond.
Very
Definitely.
good.
I'll do that, and I would certainly, like I say, I've always said that communication is two ways, so I have to have that information. So, but Bill, I appreciate you sitting down and talking about this. Look forward to other programs that we can come up through during the year that hopefully will help our citizens. And I think with some of this feedback, we may come up with new subjects.
We might. I suspect we will.
Yeah.
Knowing our citizenry. So we hope you learned from this, and we hope that we look forward to talking to you again about this.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.